Alright folks, welcome back to the channel and my returning player project. If you're new and don't know what in the almighty hell is going on, firstly, welcome, it's nice to have you. Second, I recommend you go check out my latest video on the subject, links in all the relevant places. But a quick recap of what's going on. I'm trying to see if it is in fact too late to start Wrath Classic by using a character on an account with no prior level 80s or really any foundation whatsoever. I've taken this character from 70 to 80 and now we're going to see what it's like on the gearing front. So, picking up from where we left off then, I hit level 80 on the Thursday and as briefly touched upon before, I had a bunch of badges of heroism from leveling. 58 to be exact, and with that amount I was able to pick up a trinket and a librum from the heroism badge vendor straight away, which helps massively when you hit level 80. Both are slots that are really just tied to raiding and badge collection anyway, so you're not really going to be replacing them that often. I then made my way to the auction house. Why, you may ask? Well, it wasn't to pick up Ulduar or TOC crafted stuff, though if you have the funds for it, I'd recommend doing so. Generally, they're pretty good and are solid stand-ins and may even hold over until you start swooping up those best-in-slot pieces. On my main, for example, a character who is geared to the teeth and raids successfully every week. I'm still using the 232 crafted boots, because I've just had absolutely horrendous luck in that slot. And even if you're not picking up those epic BOEs, there are quite a lot of cheap eye-level 200 blue ones that were pre-raid bis in the first phase that you can just sweep up for next to nothing. Now, not every slot will have something for it, but a good portion do. For example, there's a tank neck that drops some Gundrak trash. It's got defense, shield block, that sort of thing, and is actually a pretty decent item. At the time I got mine, it was going for like 30 gold. There are also some BOE tanking rings from Alpha and Beta that cost next to nothing because of just how frequently they drop. But with that being said, the price of items can fluctuate and depends on your server, faction balance, and all that malarkey. But it got me to like 3.3 thousand gear score, which isn't too bad. So just buying as many BOEs as you can will really set you in good stead from the get-go. I also went through the factions that I had decent rep with and checked out their quartermasters. Again, it's decent enough gear for a fresh 80. It's better than most quest items and will get you started on your travels. So, what did I do once I'd finished dressing Thresh in slightly more suitable outerwear? Heroics. Now, not Beta or Alpha straight away, just normal, bog-standard heroics. I started with a daily, and I went from there. Even normal heroics drop conquest badges now, so you're essentially going to be walking towards Ulduar equivalent items from the get-go. You'll also be swooping up eye-level 200 pieces, maybe some heroic epics. Basically, wherever you turn at this stage of the game, you'll find upgrades. And even doing the daily as a normal heroic nets you 2 Triumph badges, which is something. After a few heroics, I found I was lacking a decent enough shield. Mine was a dungeon blue from like 5 levels ago. It was starting to look a little bit unfashionable. Now, I considered grabbing a blacksmithing one from the auction house, but they were like 1,000 gold a piece, and it was only a few hundred gold from there that I could buy a really good BOE instead. So I elected to do neither because my funds are really quite limited on this character. However, I had some leftover honour from those battlegrounds I did levelling, and some Stonekeeper shards from all the dungeons. All told, I was able to cobble together enough for a PvP shield. However, it's worth stating that PvP gear for tanks is shite. It doesn't really exist, but desperate times and all that. And I also had enough badges to buy a neck from the Conquest vendor, which did wonders. After these dungeons, the neck and that shield, I was sat around 3.7ish. I was farming TOC normal as well, on and off for those trinkets. The tanking one in particular is a very good item and well worth the effort. It's also worth stating, most of this took place over the weekend following hitting level 80. I took the Sunday off though, as I had other things on, and Monday I tried to get a good session in, but had a run-in with a couple of groups that pissed me off to the point I decided to put the game down and go touch some grass. Now, this was mainly down to trying to get in some easy raids, VOA, Oni, Nax, content that I was more than able to do. I never approached anyone and claimed big things, I just listed myself in the group finder and was honest. I knew my shit, but the character was on the lower side of the gear, so I could be an off-tank or something like that. Again, no issue. What mainly annoyed me was that I signed up for VOA, and then this chap messages me, asking if I want to join. So, I tell him, my gear's a bit naff, but again, I know what I'm doing, I can off-tank, he'll need a main tank, that sort of thing. He accepts, takes me in, and it turns out I'm the first person in that party. I think, great, 20 minutes go by, no issue. I'm parked inside the raid, feet up, watching some telly on the other monitor, and life is good as the group fills up. As the group is nearly full, another paladin joins. Now, for those that don't know, standard practice in VOA 25 is to do what's called a spec run. What this is, you take one of each spec, or as close to as possible, so that if a tier item drops, because remember, it's not tier tokens, it's the actual single item, there's no competition. It's a pretty sound approach, and since VOA is a complete breeze of an instance, you don't need the full 25 to do it. Anyway, this paladin joins as pro. Now, we have me, other tanks, and we have a holy paladin. What we needed was a ret. So, just to be on the safe side, I inquire if he's in fact coming as pro, or if he's a ret and just an off-spec, because that happens. The leader confirms that we won't be running double pro, but then this guy chimes in, saying, well, he's only there for the tanking gloves, but he is coming as ret. Naturally, I object, as that's not what a spec run is, and this run is being set up as a spec run. To cut a long story short, as the next 10 minutes were spent in silence, apart from me just asking questions no one would answer, this other paladin was clearly shitting on me from a great height to the raid leader, and I was told to find another group at the end of it because I was a bit too low geared. Never mind the fact I was def capped, had the know-how, and was open from the start. I'd even spoken to the other tanks and we'd agreed on who was doing what. But this over-entitled prick came along and wanted the best of both worlds, tank loot for DPSing. He wanted that, so he made an issue of it, and I got kicked from the group. So yeah, that really rubbed me the wrong way, and it was just the start of a bad couple of hours with some groups. However, I did manage to get a strat run in and picked up the Lordaeron shield, which is a bonus. So, Monday was cut short because I would have broken something if I kept on like that. Tuesday, though, it was the complete inverse. I began by doing some normal heroics, had a jolly old time, but no drops, unfortunately. But then I had enough badges to buy a new Libram, which is a great item, and it beefed up my gear score once again. During all of this, I was also doing some TOC normals again. I needed that trinket. And what would have been my final run of the evening, lo and fucking behold, it dropped. But that wasn't the best bit. Now, sadly, I don't have footage of this because I was just running TOC over and over and over, and it's hardly riveting footage. But I got the trinket, opened my bags, saw the customary box of crap you get for tanking and healing, and I was just smiled upon by the gods. A 3, a 2, and a 1. Ravenlord! I made a very unattractive noise when I saw that pop up on my screen. I've been tanking dungeons since Wrath started. This is the first time I'd seen a mount in that box, so it was truly the blessed run. With that trinket though, gear score went up a bit, and it is just one of those beefy items that is going to be nice to keep in the back pocket for a while. Whilst looking for something new to do, I also spotted a group recruiting for a trial of the Crusader 10 normal for badges. Now 10 normal is a laughable affair, something I could easily tank at the gear level I was at. I got into that group no problem, and since it was a Tuesday, pickings were going to be slimmer. There was a slight question over my abilities because of the low gear, as I thought there would be, but after the shit show of the day before, I was having none of it, and was quite clear, I know what I'm doing, I'll be fine, you stick to your stuff, and we'll be grand. It turned out I was the more experienced tank of the two present, as I spent most of that run telling the other fella what to do, because he'd never been there before. But he was more geared than me, and no one even questioned his gear. But that was fine, I didn't mind it at all, he was a nice bloke, listened to instructions, and it was a grand 40 minutes. The raid went smooth, all one-shots, and I got a new belt and a bunch of badges of triumph. With said badges, I then went on to purchase the 232 Tier 9 shoulders. Now, you may wonder why I do this instead of waiting till I had a trophy. My reasoning was, and still is, it's going to be another week before I get a trophy, and my shoulders were one of those items that just needed improving. The tier and the belt bumped me up a fair whack, nearly 4.1k. This was quite nice, and as I suspected from here on in, people questioning my abilities because of gear just stopped. Like, it hasn't happened since that TOC raid. I took a break and came back later that evening. There was a chap putting together a Nax 10 run. Perfect, I thought. Easily something this character can handle, no questions asked, and there will be upgrades. And upgrades there were. I walked out with a shiny new cloak and 3-piece tier 7, which was amazing. A new helmet, new legs, and a new chest piece. Despite the upgrades though, it was a bit of a cursed run. There were people who were quite interesting, let's put it that way. I think you'd probably describe them as general arseholes. They were mostly over 5k gear score, shitting on lower gear DPS. And not on the meters, I mean just generally being dicks to them. Complaining endlessly about carrying people, and yeah, there were a few wipes. Some people also left once the item they wanted didn't drop, and so on. Basically, everything you don't want to happen in a pug happened. It was painful. The raid kicked off at about 9:30 in the evening, but we didn't get out until gone midnight. Thankfully, it was a full clear though, and also something I didn't realise, conquest badges now drop from older raid content as well. So you will always be gathering currency for 232 eye level items, which is actually really good. So the upgrades you are working towards will always be the current or previous raid tier, at least as far as the badges go for this system. This interesting event put me at just shy of 4.3k gear score. I leave it there for the night as it's getting on a bit now and wait for the reset to rock around. Come Wednesday, good things started coming to me. I got into an Oni 10 straight away, won the head and got the tank trinket. Okay, it's not the greatest, but it was certainly better than the dodge trinket I had and helped me maintain my defense cap. Got into a VOA 10 and 25, again no issues now that I've passed that 4k bracket. No one gives a flying fuck if I'm signing up for that content, they'll just take me. I also started doing Titan Room betas. Now I'm at that gear level, it's no issue. And I started picking up a few pieces. I got a new shield from the Nexus, some 10-man Ulduar tier, all very good things. But now the jumps in eye level and gear score start slowing down a bit because I'm replacing slots that I only recently got an upgrade in. As I had other things on Wednesday, not much more I could do, but it was an alright session. Thursday rolls around and I get into another TOC 10 normal. Still not ready for heroic, but now I know I can do normal without much hassle. Again, went pretty well. I got 3 upgrades in that one run. The dodge armor trinket from faction champs for situational usage, the ring from twin valks, and yet another shield. After this, I was at a respectable 4564 gear score. Did a couple more dungeons, no upgrades, but some more badges. We move on to Friday then. I joined an Oni 25, my hope being to get the tank ring, maybe the neck or the paladin helmet. No luck sadly, but Karrot dropped, and whilst by no means a great weapon for prop paladins, it was definitely the best weapon to have crossed my path at this point. I won the roll, and that shot me up to 4.7k. It was a nice leap as my weapon was one of those slots now lagging behind. This now left me with only a single blue item left. Now, my hope here is to eventually have enough Sidereal Essences in order to buy the Mimron hard mode boots, because they're just beautiful. But in my quest to do this, I joined a Gundrak and got lucky. The first boss dropped some eye level 200 Nax 10 boots. Nothing special by any means, but a definite upgrade. This then replaced my last blue and got me to 4745 gear score. And that's where I am as of recording this. I'm going to try and get into a TOC 25 or an Ulduar in the next couple of days, and by this time next week, I reckon I'll easily be over 5k. But that's that for now. Only thing I did was an OS 3D for the bag, which I got. But the first week of max level is out of the way, and it's gone pretty solidly all told. The start was a bit slow, admittedly, and people were far more reticent to let me into a group as a low gear tank than they have ever been for my DPS and healer ults. But the second I broke 4k, it was a non-issue. I could do all that lower content that I wanted and needed to. So, my thoughts thus far then. It's been a mostly positive experience, with the exception of that Monday, which was definitely an outlier. Now, I want to make clear, it wasn't the rejection or not being invited to groups that pissed me off. I expected, during the early gearing stages, that would happen. I knew it would be a bugger to get into certain groups, and it would be a case of just taking the scraps as and where. It was just the sheer fuckery that led to those events and circumstances that got under my skin. People like that are just arseholes, and a fine example of what can be expected in some pugs. Not to say you won't come across arseholes in guilds, or organised pugs, that sort of thing. Arseholes are everywhere at every level of the game, but in most decent guilds, it just doesn't serve to be a dick to your fellow player. After that though, and getting a few good pieces that quashed any questions about my gear, running dungeons and raids was great fun. I really enjoyed doing endgame content as Prot Paladin. I've learned a lot about the spec and am confident going into the next week of this project that I can get a 10 heroic done at some point, and definitely some 25-man normals for sure. Anyway, let me know your own thoughts down below. Like, sub, share with your pals and so on. That'd be grand. Have a good one, folks. Bye for now.